If you're a person with an eating disorder, it might feel impossible to know how to tell somebody that you have an eating disorder, that you are struggling with food and or your body image. These things may feel very personal. They may be difficult to let go, to let someone else in, and to let someone else share this experience and the experience of the recovery journey with you. My name is Sheena, and I'm a registered dietitian specializing in the care of persons with eating disorders. And today we're going to chat a little bit about how to tell somebody if you are struggling with food and or your body image. When is the right time to tell somebody that you are struggling with food and or your body image? And who should you tell if you're struggling with an eating disorder? You might be an individual that is not even sure that you have an eating disorder yourself. You might be somebody that struggles with food, knows you have lots of rules and restrictions around food, and knows that you spend a significant portion of your day thinking about what you should or should not eat. But you might not believe that you are sick enough to receive care for your eating disorder. So let me assure you right now, if you are struggling with your relationship with food or your body image, you are sick enough to receive care. And this is something that is all too common for people that are struggling with food and body image. A lot of times, these eating disorder behaviors are very normalized and even encouraged in our society. And that is why it is so important that we are able to seek out those individuals that have the capacity to help support us in identifying and recovering from our eating disorders. When you are somebody that is struggling with eating disorder behaviors, such as restricting your food, extreme healthism, lots of food rules, purging either through vomiting or excessive exercise, excessively using diuretics, or other eating disorder behaviors, you deserve support. Not only do you deserve support, it is very unlikely that you will be able to recover from your eating disorder without seeking out appropriate support. The reason telling somebody about your eating disorder is so important is that your eating disorder is an abusive partner. Not only is it an abusive partner, but it has wreaked havoc on your physical ability to actually make decisions that would help you to recover from that eating disorder. So, if you are an individual that has suffered from eating disorder behaviors, it is very likely that you have been significantly reducing your intake or increasing your physical activity expenditure in a way that has compromised your body and your brain's ability to actually make decisions about how to recover. And so, therefore, if you do not seek out the appropriate support in your recovery journey, it is very, very unlikely that you are going to be able to make a full and lasting recovery. So, I just want you to sit with that for a moment. So, how do we find that support person? This should be an individual that you trust, that you know has the capacity to listen to you, even if they don't fully understand the scope of what you're going through. That this individual is the person that could potentially seek out additional support for those elements of recovery that they're unfamiliar with. The person that you tell about your eating disorder should be somebody trusted, such as a parent, a sibling, a caregiver, a teacher, or a medical professional. The most ideal candidate for telling somebody about your eating disorder is likely going to be a professional that specializes in eating disorders. So this might be your doctor, your dietitian, or your therapist. So the first thing we want to do is we want to find that safe person in order to disclose some of these struggles that we are having with eating disorders. It's not necessary that the person has a ton of experience with eating disorders, although this is helpful. We just want to make sure that the individual that we're confiding in has the capacity to hold space with some of the struggles that we're having. When you disclose how you are struggling with eating and or your body image, we want to be really specific in this. So we want to tell that individual maybe something along the lines of, I'm thinking about food and or my body about 70% of the day. Or I'm finding that I miss some of my favorite social events, gatherings, or celebrations because I'm terrified that I might be exposed to a fear food and have to eat a food that's going to make me feel extremely guilty or anxious. We might confide in that individual that we have an extreme fear of gaining weight or missing a workout. We want to be very specific in how these eating disorder behaviors are wreaking turmoil on our lives. And that's going to help that individual better understand what we're going through, some of these specific behaviors that we're experiencing, and how to best support us. As I mentioned previously, our eating disorder is not going to let us do this alone. It will try to negotiate. It will try to say we could potentially have a little bit more energy at mealtime because we know we're not quite having enough, but only with X, Y, and Z regulations in place, such as no processed foods, no oils or added sugars, so on and so forth. And therefore, we are very much keeping that eating disorder behavior alive. Our brain has shrank in size and has changed the way that it processes some of our thoughts and behaviors. So our brain no longer has the capacity to make appropriate decisions about food and or body changes. And therefore, having the correct support in our eating disorder recovery is absolutely critical. If you are too scared to seek out support in your eating disorder recovery, it might be beneficial to consider writing it in a letter, sending an email, or another avenue that feels a little bit less intimidating, less threatening, but still lets a loved one or a qualified healthcare professional know that you are struggling and that you deeply need support in recovery from this eating disorder.